Alright, so in this video I want to show you a couple different things that I ran into that maybe you are running into too, and that's communicating with my PC to the actual Siemens processor. In this case, what I'll do is I'll open up, let's just say TI Portal 16. I'm going to show you two different methods to do this, but one thing I want to really stress on is that you have your IP address set, and that in your computer settings that you do have. Now I will say for me, if I go to change adapter settings, I have my Ethernet, which is the Siemens simulation. Then I have my internet, which I just named it that because that's going out to my internet. Then I have my PLC comms. Now I'm working off of VM, so I set that up through the actual the virtual editor. So you go to your virtual network editor, and that's why I set up my different PLC comms and stuff like that. So I know I'm in PLC comms. I know I need to come in here, and I always turn off IPv6 if I'm going directly to a PLC. And then I go to IPv4. Currently, my computer is 192.168.189, and then 255.255.255 for my subnet. Now that gets me in line with my current program, right? So what are my current processor? Because I set the processor up when I first got these from eBay. I went into diagnostics like this. You can go into diagnostics and you can see the accessible devices. So you don't have to open up a program to begin with at all. And then you come over here, and the type of connection you want is you want your Profinet. And then you want to check your, in my case, I told you, I have my Intel I have two different Intel cards. One Intel is going to the internet, which is this one down here. And one is my PLC comms. So I'm going to choose my PLC comms. Then I'm going to start my process. It finds the actual devices. So at this point, it finds that I have two devices. It shows I have the CPU 1214C DC 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 1214 AC DC relay, and then I can go ahead and start. Come over here. I can show. If I choose to show, here's what's going to happen. It's going to pull up the actual processor. Okay. Do I want to save these settings? I'm just going to pull up the processor. And then it's going to pull up what's inside of the processor. So that shows you that it shows you actually both of these that are connected. Now, just to kind of show this a little bit different, in this term, it's showing you the actual, it's not showing you the program, but it's showing you the accessible devices right here. And I'll show you another way to actually do that so that we're all on the same page. So let's open up 18. It doesn't matter which version you run. Again, when it comes down to it, they're all going to do the same thing as far as setup and stuff like that. And what I'm going to do is we'll just name a program. We'll create a new one, and we'll call it testing. We'll test IP, and then we'll create. And I'll show you what I'm talking about there. This already exists, so give it a different name. Yeah, I'll just, because I think I was toying with this last night. So we'll underscore that, give it a different name. And we're not going to add any processors. We're not going to do anything like that. We're just merely going to go straight to open the project view. So I want you to open up the project view right here. And this is another way, right? So don't add any devices. Don't do anything. You go to online accessibility or online access right here. You choose the one you're using. Again, you know that I've already discussed this. I have two different Ethernet comms. I'm going to choose the one I'm using. Then I'm going to double click on the update accessible devices. It's going to then start that and then start searching for that. Now it finds the same thing we found before. Okay. So when we come down here, we can easily see that. And then you can go to diagnostics. Like say for instance, if I wanted to open up diagnostics for this, you can look right here, come over here, you can see this is what this is. Come over here to the Profinet, look at the IP address. This is how you can change the IP address if you wanted to. Like if you wanted to change that to 78, actually you're online with it right now, you can't change that, but the case being, this shows you the IP address. So it's automatically set up, and let's see if we have any more. I don't think we have anything else right here, but keep in mind it shows you the firmware version, everything in here, shows you the current date of when that was working. You can assign the IP address right here if you did want to actually change the IP address, because this is, again, right up here was showing you the Profinet which you're attached to. If you wanted to change the IP address right here, this is where you do it. So if I want to change it to 78, I can change it to 78. Not a big deal. And then I can just merely click right there, and then that's going to assign the IP address. Now again, so now it's going to have to find that new IP address. So when you come down to it, we want to go back to accessible devices, then we're going to come back, and then it's going to find that new IP address right there, and then come over here, go online settings, and then we want to go to functions again. You can then look at your IP address, which is a Profinet, right? You can tell that it did take. Okay, so you can tell that it did take, and if I wanted to assign it again, I want to set the date and time. I can set the date and time, apply it to this PC, so you can tell that now I've got it set. You can update the firmware. If you have a firmware file, you got to have the firmware file to do so, but you can update the firmware like this. But again, when it comes down to it, it's just really that simple. And here's the problem that I had. Okay, so I tried to get online with the processors. I had everything set up. I had my IP addresses set up properly. Everything was working properly, but I could not see the processors. When I went to, let's just say I went to accessible devices right here, and I'll show you this. But I hope you stay with the video long enough to understand, to watch this, because this is very important. I went to accessible devices, I came here, and it didn't show me anything. So what I did to see if it was a problem with because I bought these processors off eBay, if it was a problem with the processor, then I wanted to make sure that I could resolve that. And so what I did is I couldn't find it in here, and so at that point I was plugged into a managed switch. So I took my cable off my managed switch and plugged it directly into the processor, and then I was able to find the processor. So that told me that it's not a problem with the PLC, it's not a problem with my NIC card on my computer. Everything was set up right with the IP addresses, everything was working. The problem resided into the managed switch that I was going through. So there was an improper setup of my managed switch. So temporarily what I did is I put an Intron switch in, which is one I had laying around, which is not managed, so that I can get all three connections. And I plug those into there, and I plug my computer into there, and that's why I can see both of these. So for some reason it did not like the setup that was in my managed switch, which was a Stratix 5400. But I just wanted to voice that, because if you do have that combination happening, go ahead and plug directly into from your PC directly into your actual processor, and see if you can see it then. If you can't see it then, you got a problem with your IP addresses, or maybe you're not in line with the IP addresses. Check your network settings on your computer, or check your network settings on your device. You can also use the IP address explorer tool. Sometimes that does help you understand what your IP address is. If you just plug it in, you can hit discover, and it will tell you the IP address on that. But with that said, as far as like trying to figure out and trying to like set the new IP address, I just showed you how to do that. But the main main problem that I had was going through that managed switch. So I wanted to make sure I voiced that, because now I'm going through an unmanaged switch and everything is perfectly fine. With that said, You know, if you plug into it and you can see directly plug into it from your PC to your actual PLC, and everything works perfectly, then you have a problem with the switch that you're going through. Now, again, a lot of automation goes through switches, so we need to make sure we're mindful of that. We need to make sure we're able to set that stuff up. If it's going through any kind of Cisco switch, Stratic switch, or whatever the case may be, any managed switch, we need to make sure that port is set up to actually allow that conductivity to your actual PLC from your computer to your PLC. If that's not the case, it needs to be fixed. So with that said, I wanted to make a more detailed video on this because I've seen a lot of videos on the internet about it, and they really didn't cover what I found. And they really didn't cover, again, having that managed switch be the problem. So I'm going to fix my managed switch, but in the interim, what I did is I hooked that Intron switch up, which was a non-managed switch, and it didn't care. It allowed as you see, it allowed everything to talk through, allowed everything to work. So with that said, hopefully you learned a lot from that video. We'll see you guys on the next one.